Everybody, welcome to Book of Boba Fett Hot Takes, Episode 2. I guess we can call it, right? Yes. All right, just fresh off the take. I have just watched it. You've seen it once.
Once before, yep.
Quick right off the beat. Do you like the direction where the show is going? Or are you just like, I'm cool with it? You're like in the middle, or are you going downwards trend? Where are you going with this?
So I'd say overall it's slightly upwards. I think I'm liking the show a lot. I think it's extremely well done. We'll get into the details. I think I'm a little more interested in the current timeline stuff, and I feel the flashback stuff is maybe a little more drawn out than it needs to be, but I really like the story they're telling overall.
Yeah, I'm kind of... As we got through the middle of the episode, before the dream sequence, which we talked about last week,
yeah,
they can't keep doing this or they're going to lose their audience a little bit. But for me, I suspect that this whole series is just going to be about Boba Fett and the trials and tribulations of his life. It's not going to go anywhere. There's no massive plot line, which is unfortunate. Unless they do like a complete 180 next week and they don't show anything, which I don't think they're going to.
No, I think it's the Book of Boba Fett, right? I mean, it's kind of like we talked last time, following the Book of Exodus with Moses. I think there's a lot of parallels here, so I think it'll kind of keep going that route. But hopefully we get more of the current day stuff than maybe we've gotten so far.
So let's split our hot takes into two different sequences. I too think that the dream sequences are too long.
Yeah,
I don't like them either. I really want to know what's going on with the Hutts and the.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they sold the show as a crime lord Boba Fett.
Yep.
And now we're lizard smoking Boba Fett finding sticks in the desert, which I thought was a cool backdrop.
Yes.
But we'll get to that in a second. So in any case, it opens up with catching or bringing back one of the assassins. He goes into the Rancor pit, and he says, "Oh, it's the mayor that did it." Right?
Yep.
Couple observations. The Rancor pit looked exactly like it did in the movies.
Yeah, it's spot on. Like he slides down the same slide like Luke did and stuff like that. It's spot on.
They did it perfectly. What I liked, the only detail that I noticed that I don't think I've ever noticed from the movies, even though I watched Jedi a billion times in my life, is the switch to open it up looked like a Rancor head. I don't think I've ever noticed that.
I think that might be a newly added detail because you're not the only person who's mentioned that. So
I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And apologize again, my camera's acting up, even though it was working last week.
But no Rancor there, though. There was some thought of from I guess the Bad Batch. They had gotten that young Rancor Moochie, so there was some hope that maybe Moochie would have been down there, but no Rancor.
Well, there would have been no one there to feed him, basically at this point. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so and then he says the mayor. They go to town and like, all right, now here comes the showdown. And the one thing I said to you during the show is they do an excellent job of creating a living world.
Yeah. Mos Espa looks really like a real place.
Well,
like
just
a real
like the
city.
actors, right? So it's not like, in A New Hope, the new edition of it, where it's just like actors just walking straight across the shot or kind of just hanging out. It looks like an actual city that's walking through that. The background actors do a really good job, which was really cool. And then they get to the reception area. There's a bunch of jokes. It's just like any other building that
bureaucratic place. You have an appointment.
The major domo comes up, kind of something to stop. Boba Fett pushes through when they have a sequence. What is the mayor's species name? I always forget that one.
It's their nickname, the Hammerheads.
Right.
And I forget the real name is like a harder name to pronounce. I probably would say it wrong.
I was going to say Hammerhead, but I didn't want it to sound stupid.
That's like kind of the nickname for them. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't think.
And it's the same species that Doc Andor is from Galaxy's Edge. That has the place where you can buy the lightsabers and stuff.
So one of the things I thought was interesting. I don't think I've ever seen them talk before with like the small mouth openings with the device over there to do the interpretation. So I thought that was a really cool touch. And the one thing that I picked up on is Boba Fett doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Right? So he's like, he just walks in and has this conversation, and he takes the assassin for his word that it was the mayor. And I got thinking, maybe he just said the mayor because somebody paid him to, like, if he got captured, finger somebody else for the deal.
Yeah.
And start a fight. So I got a thought about that. then we get the sense that okay, so the mayor's like, you can have some money. And he kind of dissed him like, you're just a bounty hunter. You're not really important.
Yeah, he kept calling him a bounty hunter, and obviously, I think that's a big theme of the whole show is Boba trying to get beyond his past as a bounty hunter.
He's trying to evolve.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So then he tells him to go to the sanctuary. The sanctuary says that the twins are back, and it's essentially we see somebody coming in with a litter. It's two Hutts, brother and sister, and they duke it out. Now, one thing I thought was kind of funny. The CGI of the Hutts is basically the same level of CGI from like the late '90s or the mid '90s when they redid like Jedi and New Hope and stuff like that. I was a little disappointed with that. Okay, and then they bring out the Badass Wookie, and I know he has a name. This is a set character. So when you
so his name is I hope I say it correctly, but his name is Black Chrysanthemum, and he's basically a Wookiee bounty hunter. He has competed as a gladiator, so you noticed in this Boba Fett called him a gladiator. Boba Fett in the comics knows him, actually worked with him at one point.
Okay.
So we don't know how much, a lot of that was kind of from the legends and books and comics. We don't know how much is coming forward, but it's neat to see. And he's pretty, like you said, badass. He's pretty badass in the comics and stuff like that. So hopefully we get to see him do a little bit more, and he becomes a main character in this series.
He looked really cool. I was like, that's what a Wookiee. My camera's frozen, by the way, for the people on YouTube. It's really acting up today. Again, I apologize. I said this is what a Wookiee should look like in like battle armor, because we never got that right in any of the.
I guess a little bit in the prequels when there's the Battle of Kashyyyk, but not.
There's a little bit, but this was pretty good.
Yeah.
Anything else? Because this was basically the end, right? The litter looks a little weak. It kind of goes away, and that's the end of current day Boba Fett at this point, basically.
Right.
To me, it was pretty simple. It was pretty quick. I didn't look what the timestamp was, but I was a little dissatisfied with that. I wanted more. Like, what are we gonna do?
Yeah. Well, I think they tease out a lot of cool stuff. Like you said, they introduce, Black Chrysanthemum and the twins, and now he's got, the mayor that he's dealing with. He's here laying claim to what was job. Like, there's a lot of interesting things set up, and then I wanted more of it.
Yes.
And then, so I don't know the exact time, but it definitely was more like 1/3 new time, 2/3 dream sequence. And I think I'd prefer if it was flip-flopped.
Yeah. So the dream sequence, I mean, like, here's my takes, because basically nothing happened. Basically, the train comes by, kills a bunch of sand people. He goes and he sees then speed bikes going. He finds the biker gang. They have biker jackets and all. I thought it was kind of funny. Beats them all up, steals their bikes, come back. Trains a bunch of dudes. There's a training sequence. It was a little bit long. They hijack the train. There's a nice little train heist sequence.
That was a really fun, really well done scene, like action scene.
Oh, it was fun.
The train heist, yeah, it's great. Yeah,
I think they could have abridged some of the stuff leading up to it, but in any case, who am I to judge? Well, actually, I am judging, I suppose. So they take the train. You get a bunch of stuff. They're setting up a bunch of Tusken Raider, like, this is your territory type of stuff, because that's probably going to come back later on in the show, whereas like he needs muscle, so you get some Tusken Raiders. Like I suspect Tusken Raiders are going to be, his crew to like enforce some stuff. So
right.
I suspect that might happen. So we're learning that he has now deeper ties rather than just being a captive. He gets inducted to their tribe. He does like a weird like lizard peyote kind of dream finder sequence. He goes to the Joshua tree and rips a branch off or something. I don't know what's happening. And they forge a weapon, and then they do a kind of dancing around type of thing. A couple things I picked up on that. The only parts that the whole thing was rather interesting. I mean, it was glued to my screen watching it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But looking back on it, so I'm not hating or I'm not nitpicking at all. But looking back on it, the only things that I took away from it that were really cool that I'm gonna like tuck away in my brain is like little Tusken Raider history. Like since the ocean's dried up, there's several tribes. We hide in the sands, and you can kind of see them giving them guns and stuff like that.
And that is the history of Tatooine. It used to be a nice place to live with water and everything like that, and then
it's essentially Arrakis.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool. You see the lizard popped out of his nose like on command. I thought that was
it was
weird.
a little. Yeah.
I don't know how that works. And then he made him part of a tribe, and then the show was over.
Yep.
So again, as this is just like last episode, I don't know if I have any I mean, I guess I haven't watched all the Easter egg parts that you have. Is there anything that stands out that was really cool that I might not have picked up?
What I liked, and well, first of all, one thing with the people that were operating the train are the Pike Syndicate, which if you've watched from Clone Wars and Rebels and stuff, the Pike Syndicate is a big part, and they were also in Solo. So it's bringing in another crime syndicate, right? So we talked about the Hutts and that sort of thing. So now we also have the Pikes involved. They're the ones who mine the spice in Kessel and transport it. The other thing that I thought was interesting is, and I'm not sure if this was confirmed, but it was stated that the place they go where he goes to get the speeder bikes and beats up the biker gang is supposedly the Tashi station. Which, if you remember, so if you remember from episode 4, that's where Luke wanted to go with his friends. Uncle Ben, I was going to go with my friends at the Tashi station, and apparently the two humanoid kind of couple that was there that gets beat up, those are supposedly Fixer and Cammy, who were Luke's friends, and that there's a deleted scene from episode 4 that they're in. So that's like a deep Easter egg from a cut scene, like that sort of thing. So apparently,
I've seen some of the old cut scenes when Luke was in wherever he was. And I mean, I remember them being in like a house type of thing and like stairs, and he had Wedge talk to him before he took off, those type of things. I thought it was really cool. I picked up on that the two, I guess, humans, let's just call them humans for lack of a better term. They were all like dressed up in like late 70s, early 80s, like hairstyles and clothes. Which I
think really fit with the timeline of when, episode 4 was shot.
Yeah,
so
I thought that was really good. Awesome. That was a good little attention to detail that, I could appreciate. Okay, so that Tashi station, that was interesting. Anything else that I might have missed?
So the one thing I noticed was at the end when they were dressing him, it reminded me a lot of the start to episode 1 when the droids were putting on his armor. So it was kind of like mirroring.
Oh, right. Yep.
So I think there's just a lot of like we talked about him trying to evolve and like he has his past. And then I did watch some of the like YouTube breakdowns. They get really theoretical about the symbolism of the tree and that it's his family tree and he's trying to break free from his so I don't know if that's reading too much into it or whatever. But he does have the flashbacks and of Camino and stuff like that. But like clearly,
humanizing him, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, it's humanizing him. It's showing how he wants to evolve beyond being just a bounty hunter, and that it's also it's humanizing him. It's also humanizing the Tusken Raiders, and so I think that's kind of been the key point of all of this.
I mean, if I suspect that we're going to see him. I think they're playing the long con or long game, I guess. Like conning you until the kind of like boring flashbacks that are not boring, but boring overall.
Right.
With like, okay, so maybe the next episode, it's going to be like him. You're going to see him creating a Tusken quote unquote crime syndicate or gang or something else like that. You're going to have a payoff from all of this work.
Yeah, I mean, if we've watched like the seasons of Mandalorian and stuff, it's all about kind of gathering your crew for the final battle, and you can definitely picture this Tusken Raider tribe
they just need
being
to
part of this crew at the end.
I mean, like the current day was like directly after last week.
Yeah.
This episode could have been a week after wherever they left off, right?
Yeah.
It was fairly close. He still had the same clothes. He was kind of training a little bit type of thing. That was it. I just hope that like the next episode is them like, all right, finally get their first tribute, and then we got to go through all of that, and then the next episode is like him, and they're doing a little bit of that.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of too with the trailers and stuff where he's called the leaders of the different syndicates together, and then he's so we haven't seen that yet. Hopefully, that's coming soon. Usually, with the trailers, they give out scenes that are in like kind of the first half of the season, and then they have the midway additional trailer, so hopefully that's coming up in the next episode or two.
Well, we're almost at the halfway mark, so they better get on with the story a little bit.
Yeah.
The only other thing is it's okay. We're getting the Boba Fett. Where's Boba Fett been for like the last 5 years since Jedi type of thing? So we're getting that story. We get glimpses of his childhood, looking at his dad's helmet and stuff like that. I would really like to know like where he got his armor, where he, kind of grown up, and like that would have been a more interesting like pre-Jedi history, I think.
Yeah, I feel like we're not getting, other than those little flashbacks of when he was a real little kid. I mean, I know in the Clone Wars there's some of him when he's like a little bit of an older kid and stuff, but I feel like I'd like to get a little bit more of, okay, like how did he become like the most feared bounty hunter in the galaxy, right? Like it wasn't just because he was Django's clone son, right? Like, what did he do to earn that
Right.
reputation?
And I think that might have been a more interesting show, but they got to tie it into the Mandoverse. And this is the problem with Star Wars. Here, I'm going to go on a 2-minute rant here. Is they're creating amazing stories. And somebody commented about how, like I said, no one's going to care about Andor next year. And somebody commented on YouTube saying that I care about it. I'm going to watch it. I thought, it's going to be awesome, and I love Rogue 6. I'm like, look, I thought Rogue One. I thought Rogue One was the best Star Wars movie since Empire, right? So I put it right below an Empire, just in quality of storytelling and everything else. But it was finite. It had a beginning and end because you knew what happens directly after that, right? Like, so you knew where these characters are going. Andor is going to be the same way. It's just, where these characters are going, where the storyline's going, so there's a finite end to it. There's no mystery, right? You have nice little stories, which are great, but in the overall scheme of things, Star Wars is still stuck in the mud. Palpatine somehow comes back and has a massive, fleet of ships somewhere that no one knows about, and they fight one more time, and then he dies again. Hopefully, maybe finally for the final time. I don't know, but we know that's ahead. So now it's just kind of like the old MCU versus Netflix. Like, you have the street level Netflix shows with Daredevil and all that other stuff,
Jessica Jones and stuff. Yeah,
that have no attachment to the rest of the story, and then you have the Avengers fighting in earthly invasion and stuff like that. So I think it only works when you have both things going at the same time. Right? Star Wars movies are done. Like, there's no Star Wars movies coming out. They're not continuing. There may, I don't know who. Maybe they might cancel them next week, like they cancel everything else. So I just don't know where they're going with a lot of this content, other than creating
enjoyable content
that's it.
That's a lot of fan service, which is great. But to your point, there's not a lot of mystery other than uncovering questions from previous movies or whatever.
But I think the main issue is that Star Wars is a genre of, or whatever, a universe, is all about epic battles, right? Good versus evil. And it only works when you have that over-ending arc. I mean, I love all the filler content and stuff, but it's still filler content in the grand scheme of things of what we know. So I will watch all the Star Wars stuff with fervor and enjoyment. Don't get me wrong. I'm not poo-pooing all this content.
Yeah, I mean, we're taking the time to make a podcast.
Yes, bringing. I love this. I get hyped every time I see it. But a part of me is still disappointed that, okay, we're still stuck in this one block of time. Let's tell new stories and new heroes and stuff like that. Because, I don't think we'll ever get Boba Fett as an Empire hiring, or the Empire hiring the best, bounty hunter type of story, because we've got Mandalorian, which is somewhat similar to that. We're not going to have another show of watching another person in Mandalorian armor run around the galaxy. I don't think it's going to happen. So that's a little disappointing. So I just, like you said at the beginning of the top of the show, I just hope that we move on with the story and we see, I want to see Boba Fett as a crime lord. I want to see Boba Fett evolve to the next level of whatever. Because, of course, you can just kind of hand wave everything up. He's a crime lord of Tatooine. That's why he never shows up again in the universe type of thing. I mean, it is what it is. All right, we're hitting almost the 20-minute mark. Anything that we forgot to touch on, Phil? In your brain?
No, the only other thing I wrote down was I believe the train as it goes by is being powered by the pod racing engine.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's another little callback. So I think, there's so many great fan service things in here. So I think a lot of the diehards are really loving that part. So keep bringing that, but let's move the story forward a little bit.
Well, that's what Favreau and Filoni are good for, right? They respect the fan service.
Absolutely.
But they make
everything's done.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's hidden. It's not thrown in your face like the prequels were.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that another day. Anyway, guys, we'll be back with a guest on this weekend for Matt Pato.
A regular podcast.
Will be on our weekly show. We're going to talk about his trip, a little bit about Genie Plus. I can't wait to argue with him because he's completely wrong with all his takes. There is no wrong takes. But that being said, thanks you for watching. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you next time, guys. Take care.
Take care, everyone.